Hello, JC alumni and friends. I'm Spencer German. I serve as the Alumni Engagement Specialist in the Office of Alumni Relations at John Carroll University, and I'm thrilled to be back with our latest installment of the Young Alumni Spotlight, featuring one of our very own here on staff, Joe Ginley, who is actually a member of the John Carroll class of 2016 and currently works in the Sports Information Office as the Sports Information Director here at John Carroll. Joe, can't thank you enough for giving us a little bit of time and being our August Young Alumni Spotlight. I want to give you the floor just to share a little bit more about yourself, your background, and your role here as the Sports Information Director.
Thank you for having me, Spencer. I am really pumped to be here. It's been a blast of a summer so far here, and it's really been been super exciting to see all the growth and everything going on. And hey, we're having a pretty fun time in athletics. But hey, before we get into that, a little bit about me. So again, my name is Joe Ginley. I'm the Sports Information Director here. I went to John Carroll class of 2016. I was a communications major with a leadership minor. Shout out to Leadership Scholarship program. They were fantastic. And I did WJCU. I did the Carroll News. And of course, I did sports information for the one and only Chris Wenzler, who was a mentor, a friend, a fantastic human being. And I worked over at a local high school. If you know me, you know me. That I know and really love Ignatius. And of course, I worked there for 4 years and loved it. But then, of course, when Chris passed in 2020, I felt the call to come back home and return to JCU, and I've been here ever since. So I'm very honored to be picked here, Spencer. I appreciate you thinking about me.
Absolutely, man. I think it's nice sometimes we can tap into those of us here on campus who are alums, especially young alums, who have kind of felt that pull to come back to John Carroll where it all kind of started and continue their professional career. So along those lines, just how do you feel your time at John Carroll as an undergrad sort of paved the way for you to be in this role? I think you have a very unique perspective on this because this was obviously an office that you worked in under Chris, but it also became a career for you both at Ignatius and now here back at John Carroll. So how would you say that path kind of set the tone for where you're at now and that you're able to work in this role?
Yeah, so I will say that I would not be here today without John Carroll's, wonderful education and without the mentors and the friends and everyone who, helped along the way. And, I'd love to shout out every single person I know, from Bob Knoll to Chris Wenzler to Mark Krieger to everybody else who, Spencer, you were my very first, DJ trainer on WJCU. I got my first,
that's right.
Fight fit for you, right? For me, that's the fantastic part is John Carroll is filled with wonderful people who will help you connect, and especially it's not just help you in the sense of, okay, hey, here's what you got to answer on your communications essay, right? Or, okay, if you're taking so-and-so's class, here's what you have to do to get an A, right? It's more so about how the people who are here connect you with opportunities, right? That for me is what made my John Carroll education, right? I had fantastic professors. I had wonderful people who mentored me and helped me along the way. Again, both students and, of course, professors and, adult leaders on campus, right? There's so many people who I'd love to thank. And, because again, I don't get here without the help of so many people helping me along the way in small ways and large ways, right? But overall, what makes Carroll special in terms of the education is that you get to really dive into that real world experience, right? So, at some bigger schools, you may have to wait around for a couple of years until you get to dive in, right? Where as a freshman, I was the assistant sports editor for the Carroll News, right? Zach Mentz gave me an opportunity to dive in and copy edit, right? Not just write, but copy edit and develop my writing skills. On WJCU, I got to broadcast a game with Brendan Gulick, I think it was like my third week of school on my birthday, as a freshman. Like, where else does that happen, right? And that for me is the cool thing about Carroll, is that you get to dive in with those real world opportunities. And that's what really makes really makes the education special.
I think you did a nice job there summing up just the community here, but also the importance of extracurriculars and the education that you get at John Carroll. But I'm sure it wasn't always smooth sailing. I'm sure there were some bumps in the road along the way of you trying to figure out what you wanted to do and where you were going to end up. So I guess I just ask you, Joe, what were some of the challenges that maybe you faced, both through your time at Carroll as you kind of found out who you were as a person, but also in your professional career after you graduated?
For sure, absolutely. I mean, I'd say that, and I tell my students this, is that, you know, anxiety is a real thing. And I really struggled with it when I was at Carroll. And that's something that, I don't talk about too much, but I think is important to know, especially in today's society, is that, hey, you can do all the right things, right? You can get it, you can get A's in all your classes. You can do everything in terms of extracurriculars and still have anxiety, right? And I really struggle with it, especially when I was a senior, right? And I was lucky enough to have a lot of people who helped support me. But I went to school at a time where the mental health, it wasn't being talked about as much, right? So when I was a senior looking for jobs, right, I had that that tightness in the chest and anxiety of hey, what the heck am I going to do for a living, right? And that's something that a lot of my students experience too. And I think the most important thing is that realizing that you are enough, right? And that's something I try and tell my students is that you are you're so valuable, you have so much to offer that eventually, so you are going to find your path, right? It might not be a straight path, and I was lucky and fortunate to have a relatively straight path in terms of only a couple weeks after graduation, I found that job, right? And, hey, when I walked across that stage, I was pretty happy. But in the back of my mind, I was thinking, what am I going to do next, right? And, again, I think it's important to remember, if you're a student or, hey, even if you're in the real world, right, is that, it's going to be okay, right? And, it's okay to have anxiety. It's okay to, struggle, right? That's part of life, but it's all about how you react to that, right? And how you can, how can you find that, you find your path, right? And that's what I tell my students all the time is that there is a career out there that's going to match you up with something that you find fulfilling. And I was lucky enough to find that. And, again, with the help of a lot of people, again, this is not a Joe Ginley show, right? This is this is all about all the other people who helped me. So I'm very, very thankful that they helped me and really, guided me along the path there.
Along those lines of finding your path and what it is that you wanted to do with your life, where do you see your career heading down the line? And honestly, like if the answer is here at John Carroll, I think you come from a unique perspective where you mentioned Chris Wensler, the late Chris Wensler, who was obviously in your position before you. And I truly believe, like, aside from him passing far too soon, he would have probably been in this role for a very, very long time, probably till he retired. Like, that's how much he loved John Carroll, wanted to be here. And if you see yourself in a similar path, I think that's great. But just what do you see for the future of your career? Where do you want to be?
I think, in my mind, what makes my job so wonderful and why I'm here is the students, right? And I get a chance to be a mentor and be a leader for students, right? So in my mind, there is a lot of, hey, there's a lot of long hours, there's a lot of stress, right? But as long as I get a chance to mentor, I think I'm really going to be fulfilled wherever I am, right? But I'm really thrilled to be here, especially, now. It's such an exciting time. I mean, I came in at a time in 2020 where, it was November 2020. We weren't on campus, right? And of course, it was such a time filled with anxiety for so many people, right? And it was a sink or swim moment, right? Where there was a lot of times where I wish I could have called Chris and say, okay, Chris, where are these stat crew files? Well, how do I do, hey, how do I, set this up? Where's this microphone? There's so much, but now I'm really at a place where we have strong leadership. We have a great student staff in place. There are a lot of fun, exciting things. And, in terms of sports information, we got a lot of fun stuff planned, right, for this year and beyond. And I could see myself here for a while because we have a really great, team in place from Brian Polian, Allison Kwan, Mike Hollins, Candace Puhar, of course, all of our great coaches and really everyone, of course, in the athletic department. Hey, we have great student staff in place and a lot of wonderful kids come through the pipeline. So I really could see myself here for a while. I really think Blue Streaks fans are in for a good year and for a good few years because, I think we've really gotten past that, that COVID, in terms of, just, being so stressed in terms of having to play so many sports at the same time. And now we're a little bit, of a sense of normalcy, between that and between having some new leadership. I'm really, really pumped to be here this year, Spence.
All right. Well, I always end with the staple question on these for our young alumni spotlights. I ask this every single time. If you could give one piece of advice to a current JCU student, maybe it could be on the younger side, maybe working their way through, or even a senior who's in that same situation you were going into your senior year where you were trying to figure out what you wanted to do, what would that piece of advice be?
That is a heck of a question. I think the most important thing is to get experience, right? And to delve in and, really just, work very, very hard, right? In terms of find a career that brings you joy and fulfillment, right? There are so many people in this world who, for whatever reason, have not found a career that matches up with their passion, right? And there's a lot of people who go through life, very, very unhappy because of that, right? Because, hey, maybe they haven't found, the right, career path, or they don't have, all those check marks in terms of education to get the job they want. But regardless, I think especially for young students, this is especially for young students, find a place that you can call home. That's a community. And, hey, I'm a little biased. I think Carroll's usually, I think that's really going to be a good place for, hey, if for a lot of students, right? But, from there, it's about finding, not just about finding a job, it's about finding a place where you feel fulfillment, because that's going to bring you so much joy every day. And that is how you give back to others, right? Because if you can find a job that brings you joy, you're going to be able to give that joy back to others, and you'll be able to pour into the next generation. That's because every single time I got help from someone, right? Whether it was Bob Knoll or Axel Hoyer or whoever it was, right? Chris Wensler, it was all about pay it forward, right? And help the next generation of students, right? So, for me, it's about finding a career you love. And then, hey, once you find that career, give back, right? Whether small ways, be a mentor, be a leader, help out in your community. Because again, that's how we make an impact in the world, right? And that's how we make the world a better place, is we pour ourselves into others. And, you can really do that really a lot more effectively if you're coming from a place of joy. So that's my number one piece of advice, is find a career path, that you love, and pour back into others.
He's Joe Ginley. Some wise words from him, our sports information director here at John Carroll, and our Young Alumni Spotlight for the month of August. Stay tuned for another Young Alumni Spotlight coming your way from the Office of Alumni Relations next month.